Hello everyone, welcome back to Bat Chat. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Baxi.
Steve, today, finally, we're doing Clayface. Wait, do we get to do Clayface this time?
Yes.
Finally?
I think we're pretty sure we're actually on Clayface this time.
Okay, cool, because every week for about a month, I've been like, so Clayface next time, right? And you're like, no, just wait, I know you really want to do Clayface, but we have to do them in order. So today, we're going to do Feet of Clay, the two-part Clayface introduction episode from Batman the Animated Series. So if you want to watch it with us, of course, Steve and I are going to watch both parts for you, and we're going to do this as both a commentary and a video cast simultaneously. So you can watch it with us, or you can just watch us or listen to it. So many options for how you can watch or listen to this video, or like you can turn your sound off. You could. I don't know why you would. We'll try to be really animated for you. It's Stephen Cap, the animated series, and get out your DVD or pull it up on Amazon Prime. Make sure to get it to timestamp 0 past all the menus and everything, and make sure that you're watching the first part of Feet of Clay. So Steve, this has been a bit of a point of contention for us for a while, where it's very simply, it's been Steve saying, I don't like this episode, me going, well, I always remembered this being one of my favorite episodes, Steve.
See, I'm trying to remember when I said I didn't like this episode, because I know I've said it, but now I'm thinking about it. No, this was actually a good episode. So why did I say I hated it? I don't remember anymore.
Well, we'll have to see, and it's funny because I think that when you talk about things that you haven't looked at in a while, and especially when you talk about things with friends, and then you go watch it again, the conversations that you've had can sometimes inform the experience that you have with it, even subconsciously. I had the worst viewing experience with this that I've ever had wow. when I watched it earlier in preparation for this. So I found myself feeling like I was understanding what you didn't like about it. So it's really interesting to hear you say suddenly, well, I watched it and I was like, I don't know what I was talking about. It's pretty good.
Apparently so we traded places. Okay.
Fascinating, because we may be sort of flipped. Now, I still like this episode, but I think I may have more to criticize than to praise. I guess we'll have to see. Well, anyway, without any further ado, a preamble, let's go ahead and get started. Everybody, please press play right now.
Batman Superman intro. Again. So maybe this is a good episode, because I got the wrong intro.
Did yours not have the Warner Brothers logo before?
Yes.
The Warner Brothers da-da-da-da-da-da? Did it not have that?
It has the Bugs Bunny Warner Brothers logo, and when it has that, it immediately cuts into the Superman Batman theme.
Oh, weird, because I had it, and I'm watching the original animated series theme. And I'm also watching it on Amazon Prime, which means it's not always the same.
How does that make any kind of sense? Do they change the streams as they're doing it?
I don't know. That's absolutely fascinating. And that means that we may be watching these slightly out of sync.
I hope not. Usually when that happens, I think I'm only like a couple seconds behind, but...
Okay, we'll see. Well, I just wondered because you said, Batman Superman intro. We all we can do is talk about Amazon Prime's intro system when we open this, but
yeah, I don't get it. It's very strange.
But when you immediately were like, I got this one, I'm like, well, I don't know which one I have yet, so really I guess strange. We'll see. Okay, so are you looking at the title card right now?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. Okay, so we should be fine then. All right, Feet of Clay.
I love that. Oh, it's on my Marvel, but I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I love that the title card is the clown, the face of tragedy and comedy, because when you go to the Batman later, and they do their Clayface arc, it's exactly that theme. The whole two-parter is just Joker is the clown prince of crime, and Clayface is the mask of tragedy. And it's done fascinatingly.
When they, compare them?
Yes.
Oh, cool. I've got to watch that. Well, maybe part of the reason that you didn't think you liked this episode was because you saw a Clayface episode you liked better from another show.
Maybe, because the Batman's Clayface is brilliant. He's incredible. Joker does to Clayface in that episode what he does to Commissioner Gordon in The Killing Joke. And it works.
Is it Basil Carlo there, or is it Matt Hagen, or is it even another one? Because there's like 3 or 4.
There's 2. If I remember right, Basil Carlo shows up near the end of the 4th or 5th season, but initially it's the cop buddy for the show that Bruce Wayne has. So it's a new character.
Oh, that's really neat. So they had two Clayfaces.
Yes, they did. And
which is neat because there's a lot of comic book precedent for that, of course. That's a legacy character.
oh, there are so many Clayfaces. There are like 9 or 10 Clayfaces.
Oh, there's that many? See, I thought there were just 3 or 4. Has there ever been a female Clayface?
Yes, there has.
Really?
A
Wow.
woman named by the name of Sandra Fuller, who became Lady Clay in The Outsiders.
Wow, I bow to you, pal. You remembered that. That's amazing.
There was also
Well
a group
done.
called the Mud Pack, where it's just a bunch of Clayface kids, and some of them are girls.
The Clayface kids. They should take they should take that and make it like Little Rascals.
Yes, that'd be great.
And then they should have like a Clay kid that's like the Alfalfa Clay, and he's just got like this piece of hair sticking up. So we should talk about this episode. So we got Lucius Fox, who I think we've seen once or twice before this already, and maybe I've mentioned this before, but he's voiced by the guy who did Cisco's dad in Deep Space Nine.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I like him a lot.
That could probably play, or Cisco actually could have played Lucius Fox in a movie.
Oh, that would have been that would have been great. But this is Brock Peters.
Okay, yeah.
Who was a character actor who had a long and illustrious career. He passed away, I think, in mid-2000s.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. This is all the great thing about Batman the Animated Series is also that they use actual guns as opposed to Superman the Animated Series. So seeing him fire a shotgun when you're like a 9-year-old kid is kind of surprising, especially when it works.
And there's a lot of stuff in this episode that I think as a kid is kind of surprising. I mean, I think Batman is colder and more ruthless in this than he has been in any other episode we've seen so far.
I think so, but I think it's also tempered by the fact that it's very similar to the Two-Face episode where he actively tries to help Clayface near the end.
That's true, but the way he gets information out of people is close to torture in places.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is really interesting. And we'll get to the one that looks a lot worse than it is, and I love the reveal when we'll get there.
Okay, cool.
So Batman he comes down here and is dealing with these guys who work for Daggett, and they've been talking to Bruce Wayne, who really, of course, is actually Matt Hagen. And I think it's interesting that Batman doesn't realize he's dealing with a Bruce Wayne, with something that looks like Bruce Wayne. And I forgot all about that. Like later on, when he gets arrested, he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, you were there, dude." And oh wait, you never saw it. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, the mistaken identity stuff in this is actually really well handled. They juggle it.
I think so too.
They juggle it really well. And when Lucius Fox is legitimately afraid of Bruce Wayne, it's a really well done scene.
I agree with that, and again, we'll get there. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but what Bruce does there, I think, is supremely stupid.
Okay, yeah, well, let's talk about that then, because I think I know what you're talking about.
But we'll get there. What I remember about this episode from when I was a kid is just the action, the animation, and character designs. Clayface is one of the single most memorable things from my childhood, and I think that's a lot of the reason that I remember it so vividly. And remember, I saw this when it came out.
Right.
That scene at the end of the second part when he's flipping, it's grotesque. I mean, when he keeps changing forms, and it sticks with you, man. It's horrifying when you're a kid.
Oh no, I totally agree with that. I think part of the reason I didn't like this episode as a kid is because it freaked me out in certain places.
Oh, that's interesting. So we're both informed a lot by the memories we had of it, the experiences we had with it as children.
Oh yeah. I didn't notice this earlier, but since it's written by Marv Wolfman, it definitely feels like Marv Wolfman's Batman, now that you say that, because he does stuff that verges on torture. He barely talks this whole episode.
That's right.
All the way he's taking out the henchmen
scary
stuff. Yeah, like this is totally Marv Wolfman Batman.
So you mentioned the Two-Face episode earlier, and I could not help but constantly compare this to that, having recently seen it with you for the show while I was watching it again.
Yeah.
And it hurts it quite a bit. The big problem with it for me now, and again, I still like this episode, but the big problem with it for me now is that Matt Hagen is not really the sympathetic, tragic character they try to make him out to be.
No, he's not. And that's why I don't buy him having like a tragic end by the end with the first part's cliffhanger, because he's not a good person. He does all of this to himself, and then he just becomes a bad guy.
Well, and the other problem with it, too, is that he already is not anything like himself by the time the episode begins. We don't even get his backstory until the beginning of the second part.
Yeah.
We don't really know what led him to this and why he's like this. I always projected things onto this episode that aren't here. I always kind of projected the standard tragic, like, actor who is trying to stay young forever. This isn't about that.
Yeah, no, it's not.
He got in a car accident or something. I forget what it was. He got in an accident. He hurt his face, and he needed to get reconstructive surgery, and instead he bought into this thing that Daggett gave him, and he put this cream on his face, and it messed up his face, and he had to keep changing it around. And I love the supernatural component to that.
Yeah.
It's really interesting and fun. But that he has to rearrange his face to look like himself. But it's not so it's about that kind of superficial. I have to look perfect in order to do my job, and of course, acting is a tough thing anyway because you never have job security. You always have to have that, a new job.
Right.
But I always kind of projected that youth thing onto this episode, and it's not there. It's not about that.
No, it's not. It's kind of monster movie when you get to the second part. It's nowhere near as psychological as I remember it being.
Yeah.
And it really just feels like they did a lot of what they did with Clayface near the end and the kind of grotesque looking thing that we get just because they wanted something hard to animate.
Yeah. And how many times? That's a theme that keeps coming up on the show, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely so. And I mean, Clayface in the comics is not a very interesting character. He's only been done exceptionally well, like maybe one time, and that's in The Batman. So I think that's also part of why I don't like this episode as much, is because it's just another standard Clayface story in my mind.
Yeah, but this is the thing that introduced me to the character. I didn't know him before this, and it's memorable if nothing else. I think the problem, again, is that it feels like a lesser version of the Two-Face story. I mean, we've got this guy who is manipulated by a mob boss. It's a different mob boss. It's the guy who usually is going against Rupert Thorne, right? Isn't it usually Daggett versus Thorne?
Yeah.
So we have that again. So we have that same theme of the mob boss who creates a villain in trying to control him to do his bidding and that kind of thing. But importantly, I don't like the guy before it happens.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't have any reason to. I don't know him, and also some of it's just I'm not given enough information yet. I think the key to what hurts this story is maybe I'm wrong about this, but the first thing that springs to mind is that the stuff that the compound that he puts on his face is addictive.
Yeah.
And it's not really a story about addiction. That's just the property that they gave it to keep it going so that he would get desperate and have to keep getting it. I don't think it's really about addiction. I don't think the story's really talking about addictive personalities or anything like that. I think it's just simply he made a bad move one time and now he's been transformed mentally already into a different character. With Two-Face, it was about a guy who had developed in a very interesting way throughout his life a psychosis.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of opportunities for change, and you always knew who he was, and he had a lot of chances to maybe get around it or do something to start working against it. Matt Hagen never has that. He is a monster from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, and that makes him a little bit two-dimensional.
Yeah, and part of also what made Two-Face interesting is that even if the villain stuff got two-dimensional at any point, you could still use Two-Face as a foil for Batman and talk about Batman's psychology through Two-Face.
Good point.
None of the addiction stuff that you can drive from Clayface to Batman is in this. Batman really is just kind of a shadowy guy for the whole episode.
You're right. I don't think that there really is any comparison between their personalities or their ideologies or any of that kind of stuff like there was with Two-Face. And I hate to compare them too much. I think if I'd watched this and had never seen Two-Face, I like it better. It's a better episode. But it's just that too many of these things are similar. Too many story elements are similar, and they've just already done this better.
Yeah, and I think it is a fair comparison, though, because Paul Dini and Bruce Timm talk about how they wanted to model this after Two-Face, and they keep talking about how this and Two-Face are their crown jewels of two-parters.
Oh, wow, okay.
So there's very intentionally just story riffing from that episode, just for the sake of story riffing, as opposed to telling a new and interesting story with it.
And I don't think it's a problem to mirror or parallel story elements from episodes like that if they stand well on their own and there's something that sets them apart. I think it can be very interesting to have some of these villains become who they are in similar ways. Maybe it tells you something about these kinds of people, these kinds of personalities. Repetition is not always a bad story device. In fact, sometimes it's a very effective story device.
Yeah, especially with Batman. That's his whole life.
If we look at this series as a piece, then sometimes repetition can be a useful thing. I just think that here it's bordering on the wrong kind of redundancy, on ripping that off before redoing it in an interesting way.
Yeah, and I mean, importantly, Batman stories repetition is always kind of a big theme, so it's fine to do it. It's just like you said, they do kind of do it shallowly in this episode. I was watching this with a friend earlier today, and he said that if you substituted Matt Hagen here and tried to have his friend save him, and he gets doused with all the chemicals and becomes Clayface, it would have been 10 times more interesting.
Wait, the friend did?
Yeah, the guy that we met in the trailer earlier, the guy who was trying to help him.
I think you're right. Well, because he's and when he says trailer, he means a physical trailer, not like the trailer for this episode. Yeah. Because he's the voice of reason for him, right?
Exactly.
He's the guy who keeps saying, "No, you've got to get off this stuff. You can't keep relying on it. It's ruining your life." And I think Hagen is consistently irrational because he's addicted to something. So I'm not saying that he doesn't make sense. I'm just saying that he's not nearly as interesting as he could have been if the story was saying something about addiction or something about Hollywood, even. Like is he an actor because we're saying something about the kinds of people that become actors? We're saying something about acting, or is it more of just kind of a cute theme?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't.
And there are a couple of places, where Batman will talk about how he's a good actor and that kind of thing. And a lot of the time we'll have characters who will have powers or origins for being villains that reflect their personality in some way.
Yeah.
But is it interesting just by the surface doing that, or does there need to be something deeper than that?
Well, I mean, remember Batman Arkham City with Clayface there and the whole acting motif the whole through that game, and it works wonderfully there.
Right.
But part of the problem is this is again kind of superficial. They do exactly what to Clayface what they do with Robin later down the line when Tim Drake becomes Robin. I hate to call him Tim Drake because he's just Jason Todd. This Matt Hagen right. in this show is just Basil Karlo named Matt Hagen. There's nothing of Matt Hagen in this character, so they just kind of riffed a model and try to build a story around it.
I don't know why they didn't just call it Basil Karlo, unless for some reason they just didn't want to make the movie references. But this is a show that really likes its classic movies. I don't know why it wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. There's very little, if anything, to Matt Hagen in this characterization whatsoever. Matt Hagen was a treasure hunter. He's nothing like this.
I didn't know anything about Basil Karlo before. In fact, I didn't know Basil Karlo until I played Arkham City, and then I went back and researched stuff and was like, oh, that's an early one. Okay, I didn't know that. Is that the original, or
Basil Karlo is the original, yes, and then Matt Hagen came after him.
Okay. Something else that I think is a little bit rough about this. Oh, and we need to talk about this crazy Batwing thing. But something that I think also hurts Basil Karlo a little bit for Basil Karlo. I'm gonna keep calling him that. Matt Hagen.
Well be Basil Karlo.
For me in this is that he doesn't seem like an actor. He seems like a mob thug.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's
and I get that he is a mob thug, but he's also an actor. I mean, he's this really famous actor, and there's also all this talk about how he's a master of disguise. I don't see any of that in his personality. I feel like we're told that before we see it, and I might like him better if I simply saw those skills that then Clayface is supposed to resemble. When we finally get to Clayface, he's more fun just because of what he looks like and what he's able to do, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like then I like him, and then I understand why this voice actor was picked. I kind of wish he was doing more of a different voice as the human version than he is as Clayface. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
He's a little too growly. I get that they're different, but he doesn't sound like an actor.
Yeah, he's not the most inspired casting choice, as opposed to everyone else in this show that they always seem to nail, especially for villain transformations. And
once he's Clayface, I think he's awesome. But
yeah, just as Matt Hagen though.
Yeah.
Also, interestingly, a lot of the ideas you were talking about there with the acting and the master disguise stuff is all stuff we set up in the show before. Batman's been in disguise several times. Alfred's an actor in this universe. There's a great theme in Batman comics and TV shows where Batman's a performance before it's anything else. So
Right.
you could definitely have pulled from that. You didn't even, if you just reversed the story and made Batman the main character and he's projecting himself onto Basil Karlo, it would have worked better as well.
Yeah, and that's the other key to the problem with this is that it's it's just a thing that they attempted that failed a little bit. I think that you have a tragic protagonist before you have an antagonist, and it worked with Two-Face in a way it doesn't here. And I think part of that was because of that personal connection between them.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knew where Two Face was going, unless you were a kid when you watched the animated series. But everyone generally knows where Two Face is going when they see him early on. But he's still likable. He's still got innocent people around him that care about him. Matt Hagen's really got nobody. I've got no sympathy for the guy because he's just kind of crazy.
So this is one of the most hardcore things Batman does in this show,
Yes.
and it's completely unbelievable.
This
I
guy's
love
hand would
it.
fall off.
But no, yeah, he would have totally broken his wrist already. And then you look at how big that thing is. And I mean, I don't know, we're watching a cartoon, but we're supposed to take this really seriously. You listen to the voice acting. We've got serious major character actors doing these voice, and then just the atmosphere of the whole thing, the tone that's set up initially in most of these episodes. Clearly, this is supposed to be as close to serious crime drama as we can get on a Fox cartoon show, and this is insane. I mean, this is just straight up torturing this guy. To the point where when we see the second torture thing later, I was completely taken off guard that Batman wasn't actually using a disease in a can.
He might as well be Daredevil from Netflix right now, just breaking people's legs and throwing them off roofs.
That's right. Of course he fainted. I would have fainted. That's terrifying.
Yeah. I can't believe you were shocked by that. And what took the police so long to get there?
They just suddenly show up.
Yeah. Because why not?
Real quick side note. This has nothing to do with anything. I could not think of very much negative when we talked about Daredevil a couple weeks ago, Steve, because I just loved that. But it does have that thing at the end with the Kingpin Daredevil fight where the police conveniently show up just after a fight is completed. It's like 3 seconds afterwards. Woo! It's like really. All right.
This guy would break his neck from that. Come on, Batman. Why did you have to drop him?
So we got serious ideas and cartoon physics. That's
and I mean that can
sometimes
work. Avengers made it work. Age of Ultron made it work. But this is just weirdly inconsistent and kind of out of character.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you what I was gonna say, and then I'm gonna tell you why I'm wrong about it.
Okay.
I was gonna say Bruce is an idiot for coming in here because Lucius thought he did it, but I forgot again. He doesn't know what happened.
Right.
So.
But
oh wait, no. But before this, Alfred was like, "Oh, the police are after," and then he showed him the newspaper. So no, he does know that they think Bruce did something.
Yeah, no.
So he's an idiot for breaking into this hospital room. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he should have just been Batman. He could have just walked in as Batman.
That's a bad idea. Yeah, and that would have been really cool because he could. Oh, and because he's an actor playing a role, pretending he's somebody different, right? They should have done that. Because what would happen? I don't mean to rewrite the episode, but that just makes too much sense with the story we have. Batman would show up and tell him that he's trying to exonerate Bruce Wayne, and he knows for sure it wasn't him.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. And I mean these police characters in the show always work with Batman. He's almost a deputy in this show. Why wouldn't they believe him?
Yeah. No, I really wish we were doing those character contrasts and parallels with Clayface and Batman, because Batman has always had. There's always been that question of is he Bruce or is he Batman, and he sees himself more as Batman, and always the question of can you force yourself to become your personas, or was he already Batman the moment his parents died, or the moment he saw the bats, or whatever it was, and the suit is simply his outward projection of that. But anyway you slice it, there's really interesting questions of once you put that mask on, are you acting or is it you already? And then you look at a lot of real actors, be it stage or screen or whatever it is, who have all these different methods where they either bring a lot of themselves to it or they can completely transform themselves. How much of with some actors, you have to ask the question of how much acting are they really doing?
Yeah, and I mean, perfect example of that. I'm not crazy about this movie, but Birdman is that all over the place.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
We talk about it with a Michael Keaton, but Edward Norton's got that just like that. Edward Norton is just like that in actual film productions as he is as that character.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So he's just being himself.
Yeah.
But then once you become self-aware, it's almost like then it is acting again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're like you have to purposefully do that thing. You can't just because if you were just being yourself, you might not play it up enough because you have to know what the point of the whole thing is. So I don't know. I think you kind of have to just get into different people's heads, and it's just a case by case thing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, let's go ahead and set up the second part.
Okay, also.
I'm doing that right now. Feet of Clay Part 2. And as always, we're going to, as we said, watch these together. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Everybody, let me just get mine set up real quick. Sorry, bear with me a second.
Bear in with Cap.
Sounds like a horrible name for a series. All right. Everybody, please press play right now.
Let's see what I get this time. Original intro, okay. Interesting.
I gotta tell you, Steve, I have never. Now, I generally have watched this way, but the last couple times I've tried it on Amazon, mostly because I'm trying to get the other intro. I have never watched one on Amazon and gotten the Batman Superman intro. It's never happened.
Wow. I'm trying to think of an episode.
And you said it almost always happens.
That's really strange
for you. It's never happened for me. I've probably done it 6 times.
What was the first episode we did together with Dan's News? It happened there. I remember that.
Pretty Poison?
Yeah, it was Pretty Poison. Okay, try Pretty Poison next time.
Okay, I'll do that. But we just got two separate intros.
Wait, did you get the Superman Batman one?
With the one before it? No. I'm just saying the one before it. So I mean, like, it's apparently throwing dice.
That's messed up. I don't know how you get those streams to do that. That doesn't make any kind of sense. But okay. So interestingly, Bruce Wayne's arrested at the end of last episode, and there's a great series, a great crossover from the early 2000s called Batman Bruce Wayne Fugitive and Batman Bruce Wayne Murderer. Mm-hmm. And they do.
I've read some of that.
Yeah, they just DC just recently created new editions for that, so it's no longer like 4 volumes now; it's just 2. But it's a really great run if people want to check it out, because a lot of what you get with Bruce Wayne running from the police and trying to solve mystery like he does in the opening of this episode and the most of last episode is in there, and it's done very well. Plus Deadshot's at the end of it, and Deadshot's awesome.
I wish Daggett had dropped the Clay stuff himself.
Yes, I agree with you. Because Rupert Thorne works as just a invisible criminal entity, because that's just the theme of the piece. Daggett doesn't really have a character or any kind of symbolism to him, so you kind of want him to do something.
He's just a generic evil corporate CEO. I kind of feel like Derek Powers is Daggett done right.
I agree with that, yeah. Although, to be completely fair, Dark Knight Rises did adapt Daggett perfectly, because he's also a terrible character in that movie.
He's not in it very much of it, but he is about the same person, yeah.
Except he has the worst first name.
Yeah, he's just another John.
Because there wasn't enough already in that movie.
I think, we didn't talk about the scene before much. When Alfred brings Bruce food in the Batcave, and he's like, oh, the police are here again. And then Bruce is like, wait, the police were here? I'm like, you never came down and told him that, and you're just now showing him the thing, the newspaper that says that he might be running from the law?
You would think that's kind of information he needs.
Yep, that seems kind of important.
Yeah, the more we watch this, I feel like his friend character just should have been Clayface. This seems like it would work so much better if the roles were reversed and he was trying to be a good person, but Daggett was trying to get him to use his Clayface powers on him so his face would look better.
I guess I'm not sure why you're saying that the friend would be a better character. I mean, to be Clayface.
Because
I guess I'm just not.
He would inherently be sympathetic, so when he becomes a full-fledged bad guy and Batman fights him at the end, there would be more drama to it, as opposed to just being a bad guy all the way through.
But why would he have ever put that on his face?
No, I think the idea I had earlier was just that he tries to stop Matt Hagen earlier, and he gets it on him accidentally.
Oh, when it's like your no good deed goes unpunished kind of story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that happens quite a bit.
Yeah, I can see that, but I'm latching on to this acting thing so much, and I just want it to be more layered and interesting than it is.
Yeah,
I think it's
sure.
so, and partly because I've seen it done so well in other things, and it's hard to go back to and watch this after Arkham City and not want certain
Yeah.
things to be there. But we need to talk about what we like too, because as I said, it's not a bad episode. It's just a lot of that character stuff could have been done so much better. It's another one of those really good gritty looking crime drama episodes. I really like the look of it. I like who Batman is in this a lot, and wish he was like that more of the time in the show. I think one of my favorite things about this episode is Batman in the background. Now, I still think that with the character stuff, it would be great if we were paralleling those characters more. But I think it's really interesting to have Batman be kind of a Wraith character, and then everybody thinks that Bruce is duplicitous.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good idea.
That I like. And he's kind of scary, and you can see why people are actually afraid of him. There's a lot of Batman stories where you're like, well, Batman clearly doesn't kill people. And that's a thing that he has to deal with in the Nolan trilogy, where like once word gets out, oh, he doesn't kill. You know, he's like, it's like, you remember Dark Knight? It's like
Yeah.
you're not gonna hurt me. So he has to drop that guy from a high place and break his leg, so that he'll be intimidated by him. We live in a day and age where just dressing like this is not going to scare everybody, you know?
Right.
Especially because I'm not the only person that has a room that looks like this. And people are just kind of used to seeing it now. I'm just kidding. But you see what I'm saying? So it's cool that, like, look, if you take your grappler thing on the front of your Batwing and you fly a dude around the city like that, people are going to be mortified of you.
Yeah, theatricality and deception.
Get around. That's it.
That's one of the
And
best
also
lines of that trilogy.
breaking the laws of physics, I think.
Yes. I mean, that comes without saying. It's a comic book character, so we're forget physics all the way through.
I meant to say this earlier. We went kind of the wrong direction, I think, with the sort of actor that Matt Hagen is supposed to be here, because I always get the sense that Basil Karlo was a little bit more of like a swashbuckling type, and he and the actual character seems like that. This guy just doesn't act like that or sound like that, but the roles that we see, that the generic looking kind of roles that we see that he's played, look like Errol Flynn type roles.
Yeah, and just more and more it makes you wonder why they didn't just name him Basil Karlo.
But also why they didn't let him actually have a little bit of charm to him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Natural charm that I think has to come to a character like that. I mean, like, you know, a lot of the time an actor like that gets so full of himself that he's not likable and he's kind of rude to everybody and stuff like that, but he wouldn't growl like a mob thug. That's all I'm saying.
No, you're right. Since this is a two-parter, I feel like you could have almost done like an Arrow flashback style, where just in between every couple of scenes you flash back to when this guy was a good person and slowly becomes addicted or loses face or becomes a jerk. If you just stuff that out a little like that.
You're right, and they're struggling with the timeline a little bit because there's not an obvious place to start this without not having enough Batman in the episodes. Exactly. That's the difficulty. When you're right, because with the Two-Face thing, Bruce is intimately involved in his life.
Yeah.
So Batman is inherently there, but at least the character. But the person, Bruce Wayne. But here, it's not about him. So
yeah.
When do you give us those things? Now, do you think that we needed that earlier? Like I said before, that we needed his backstory earlier in the episode to have even any sense of who he was and what his motivations were really, because he's desperate and there's talk of addiction. But I don't know why he got addicted. I'm projecting stuff onto him.
No, yeah, you're right. We did need a lot of that earlier. It's not exactly, but it's almost like the first Iron Man film where we open it where he's having fun and then gets kidnapped by terrorists and everything's terrible. And then we flash back to how he's not necessarily a likable person, but we like him because we know where he ends up.
This guy is just too much of a cartoon character for this show.
He's even got a cartoon like French mustache. It's hilarious.
Yes, he does. There were characters in things like Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain that looked precisely like this guy.
Yes, I absolutely agree. It's really strange.
And he's just afraid of germs, and he has this hilarious voice, and he's like, this actor was told to do a totally different thing than most people are usually told to do in the show, and it's hilarious.
No, you're right. I'm assuming this is the thing we were talking about earlier with the torture.
I love this scene. He tells this guy that he's going to give him crimson fever. He turns the glass and you can see the label, but you can't see what it says. You just see a couple letters. And then when he starts hitting his fist. And when I was a kid, I was mortified. It's like, oh my god, he's gonna give this guy a fatal disease. And then here in a little bit, it's gonna turn, and if you blink, you miss it. But they do an insert that shows us that it's just seawater. It says seawater for analysis. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a lot of fun.
And that does sound like a thing that this writer would do.
Yeah, Mark Wolfman's done stuff like that before. If you ever read any of his Teen Titans, there's Robin trying to act like Batman, so he does stuff like this.
Here it comes. Seawater for an... I love that.
It is really funny.
So, as you said, the mistaken identity stuff is really fun. There are places where, even if I hadn't seen this before, I think I'd be pretty sure when it's taken and when it's not. But it's... Well, also because he doesn't have pupils. That's a thing.
Yeah. But even so, if you're just a kid or if you're just watching this passingly, every now and then when he shows up, it is legitimately surprising.
I gotta tell you, Steve, if a dude walks up to me and he takes a piece of his skin and he puts it on my mouth as a gag, I'm gonna need therapy for the rest of my life, probably.
Oh, just imagine if you were a germphobe and he did that, though. That'd be even worse.
I didn't think of that. That's
just disgusting. Oh man.
Wow, there's some stuff going on there. That's awesome.
He is probably scarred for life right now, because not only was he tortured by Batman, he's a germphobe that got its skin attached to his face and is about to be thrown off a building by a monster.
I mean, let's remember, he is like a total worm, you know? This isn't just some random bystander. He's working for Daggett. He's not a good guy.
Yeah. But again,
I love that. That was a thing. Sorry, that was another thing that really stuck with me when I was a kid. That just to mess with Batman, he looks like a clay Batman.
Yeah.
He could just look like Batman, but no, he's got to be disturbing.
It does look pretty cool, though.
Oh, see, this is one of my favorite action scenes in the whole show.
Yeah.
Like, and this is another thing that we could have really explored, is that Matt Hagen would be a guy who was good at improvisation. This is a guy who's creative. He thinks on his feet. Wouldn't it have been neat if some of the implements that he creates had something more to do with who he really was and his personality? I mean, if he's supposed to be our tragic protagonist, I just feel like we should be A, with him more through the thing, and B, that we should have more of a sense of who he is.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, you could definitely do him as just being evil, but you need something innocent around him to ground that character. So if he has to have like a friend or a girlfriend or people that legitimately care about him and allow us to say, well, at least for their sake, I wish he gets it together.
Good point, yeah. But importantly, I think this episode thinks that he's a really sad, tragic character that we're supposed to kind of get misty-eyed about. And it doesn't quite work. Yeah. Doesn't quite work.
They do the same thing they did with Mr. Freeze, where after this episode, Clayface is just not there for like a season. Just because they feel like this is like a perfect 40-minute movie, and it's really not.
I know. I think he could have been improved about, but I'll tell you, as spectacle, it's great.
Yeah, I agree. Animation's fantastic all the way through.
A lot of fun to look at. Yeah. I don't entirely buy that he's able to do what he does there because he's fighting Batman and he keeps changing a whole lot, and then Batman says, "Oh, you're having a hard time, keeping your shape. You're having a hard time changing a lot," and it's like hurting him. And then he goes off that roof, and he's able to like liquefy and go into that grate. I don't think he'd have been able to do that because clearly his regular shape is this. Like, he's not having to concentrate to keep. It's not Odo from Deep Space Nine. Like, he doesn't concentrate to keep himself together.
Right.
He would have to concentrate to turn into the Blob, I think.
Yeah. No, you're right. It is kind of.
He says in this scene that it's like tensing a muscle.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it kind of reminds me now of Ink when we go to Batman Beyond, because she has that kind of the same thing. And then her cells get
cool too.
Yeah, you're right. And she gets at some point, I forget what episode it is, but at some point, like, she gets weakened, so she can't hold her form at all.
Once again, we've got a totally redesigned Batcave. I feel like I say that every episode.
Now we just got a desk. I don't know what he was thinking decorating this time around. Nothing but a desk.
But I like his Bat-computer better. It's like it wraps around and it's got
it's more
got wings on it. Yeah, it's good. There's just more to do with it. It looks more like my desk.
It's fun in the comics to see early years Batman with his Batcave, and it's usually just a giant cave with one desk in the middle, and then eventually it gets better.
And then we go to the Nolan films and we go right back around where we're doing that all over again.
Yeah.
There is nothing in that Batgame.
Well, here's Batman in Disguise again, and you're right. Like this should totally have been paralleled more with Clayface, but it's not.
Yeah. Also, that's not really like a Master of Disguise thing because he just put a janitor's coat and a hat on over his bat suit.
No, that's true. But I mean, we had the episode Forgotten. We had him dress up as a priest at one point. So like Batman's been doing stuff like this. He's Matches Malone at one point. So
yeah,
he has that history of transformations.
And you're right. We've already seen a lot of that before this episode.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Or at least in this order. Now, as far as broadcast order, whatever, but...
Yeah, broadcast order is not even really an issue at this point, because I feel like most people just watch it this way.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. But all I'm saying, though, is that when they made the show, they knew it would broadcast in a different order.
Oh, yeah.
So to expect certain episodes to inform other episodes might be disingenuous, is all I'm suggesting.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Because it is for an audience, after all.
Yeah. And I mean, all things considered, assuming, I don't know what the actual area is, but if this came out before Two-Face and it was an earlier episode, then I could see people really liking it.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. I gotta say, this is a villain plot that never makes sense to me. And we've seen it a lot, and a Catwoman springs to mind. But when you have an evil corporate crazy guy who wants to put out a product that's gonna hurt everybody, and he wants to put it out anyway because it will sell really well. How is that sustainable?
It's not. It's not at all.
I don't understand it. Like unless you can make a bunch of money and then have some sort of alibi or something, like have some way for people not to catch you and it traced back to you. It seems like at some point you just get arrested.
I always kind of want a Batman story where the whole plot is business savvy, since Bruce Wayne is a businessman, so we could stop doing stories like this. Because at some point Batman's got to realize that Roland Dag is just an idiot and he's going to go to jail on his own, and you don't even really need him at this point.
Well, let's also remember, though, that his end game here is to take over Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah, that's true. Although it doesn't really factor in much aside from just giving Batman a different stake in it that doesn't really hold.
Yeah, I think it's there just to kind of make Bruce Wayne more important, more involved, and to have a reason for him to look like Bruce Wayne, so that at the beginning we can just have a classic what the heck moment for the audience,
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of a shock factor thing. But yeah, I don't know, man. If you would have to have some sort of plausible deniability for something like this to work.
And even if you did, the damages for what you'd have to cover, assuming you had plausible deniability, would be more than the profits you make.
That's a good point, yeah, because I mean, like, wouldn't it always trace back? Gee, all these people got addicted to this thing, they couldn't stop having it, and eventually people would complain, I'm addicted. Like, I don't understand that either, you know what I mean? Like control by addiction only works if you can keep those people quiet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to control everyone that was on it, like he tried to control Clayface, but you're talking about just putting it out on the direct market.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to do something like that, do it like Joker did in 89, where just let everyone know everything's tainted and see the chaos.
Yeah.
But when it's about money, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because that wasn't about profit, that was about chaos.
Exactly. It's really strange. Now, what you could have done is had Bruce Wayne come out with the product. Yeah,
this is so freaky. I love it, man. The hand thing. Oh,
yeah, it's really weird. Oh.
I think it's cool that Clayface is this character that can keep creating clay.
Yeah.
So he doesn't lose pieces of himself and have to put him back on there. Like he can leave all this clay around. He just keeps producing and producing.
There's actually a great episode of The New Adventures of Batman with Jason Todd. I'm not going to call him Tim Drake because he's not Tim Drake.
No, don't do that to my head. He's what they call Tim Drake. Just get over yourself.
But Robin is there, and in that episode, I forget what the name is off the top of my head, but essentially it's a piece of clay. Oh, it's called Annie. Yeah, that's the girl's name. It's a piece of Clayface that runs away and tries to hide from the bigger Clayface.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It's a really interesting episode.
I've probably seen it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, and Robin trying to protect her constantly from a big trench-coated guy, and later it turns out it's Clayface. And they even have sort of like a mutual crush on each other. It's really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
And then Clayface is like, tomorrow, tomorrow.
I do like this defeat.
You're only a Clayface away. Sorry, what?
No, I like this defeat that putting all of his former faces on the screen and then just having his ego take him down and I mean if you said the identity stuff earlier it would have worked better, but it's still a cool visual and it's a cool idea.
But yeah, it's a wonderful idea, and I love what it looks like, and it's one of the most memorable things in the show. But my question is, does it really make
No,
sense?
not at all.
Have enough to really understand what's going on? Because you said ego. I don't know that for sure. He says I can't be them all at once. How come just because you see yourself on a bunch of monitors, you have to be all of them at once?
Yeah.
It's not like you magically transform into everything you see.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It hasn't been like, if that's how his power set worked, first of all, I think he would be a lot easier to defeat if that's how his powers.
Just make him stare at a wall and it's over.
Yeah, he's just like, oh crap, the moon. Oh, now I'm the moon.
But yeah, it does look
this
cool.
This is convenient, right?
Yeah.
That for a minute he has Bruce Wayne's face just so the police will put two and two together and then exonerate Bruce Wayne.
Really convenient. It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's convenient.
It's
why Bruce Wayne? We don't see him turn into every other person. We don't see him turn into the middle-aged lady at the talk show, and
yeah. No, you're right. It's really strange.
I love that line when he dies. When he says, "I'm not going to have the chance to read the notices." I really like that.
That is a good line.
And that's so interesting and kind of meta for us when we're doing a show like this, because like we're reviewing this episode, and it's like he's not going to get to read the review, and he says, it's a cute line, but it's like I'm not saying it's really fourth wall breaking, but like the only reviews there would be of the thing he's in, the fiction that he doesn't know he's in because he thinks it's you know what I mean? So that I don't know. I love stuff like that.
No, it's certainly interesting, and I mean, Clayface is a character that's had a vast majority of different themes for every incarnation. Like Basil Carlos got that constant actor thing, and Matt Hagen's got his ego, and then Preston Payne is all about making it a metaphor for STDs. So like you could do so many really cool meta stuff with different Clayfaces, and I think that's why people thought the Clayface gang was a good idea, but it didn't work.
But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of allegories you can do with that motif.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many cool ideas. Why not just have a breaking the fourth wall kind of Clayface character?
And if you're going to make it about being a master of disguise, it doesn't even have to be and then he just turns into Mystique. Look, it's Mystique. It doesn't even have to be an actor. It could be like a spy or something.
Yeah, no, you're right. It would totally work if they did that.
And then we can do that cool identity stuff of like you forget who you are and or you're just whatever the job needs you to be, or you don't even know what your own worldview or ideology is anymore. You just kind of go with the flow and Clay, so flow, and I don't know, like there's all kinds of cool stuff you could do with it.
Yeah, I guess that's maybe why there are so many Clayfaces, because everyone wants to do their own thing with that power set. There's one that's a firefighter at some point, and I think it's this. They do the same thing that they do in Hush, where he transforms into Jason Todd, the Discrete Batman.
Oh, okay.
There's one that's like in charge of prostitution in the city. There's a couple that are like policemen, or a couple of runaway kids that don't know who they are yet, so they become Clayface. But yeah, there's lots of that.
So this one, just when you hold it to the standards of the best episodes we've looked at so far in the show, I think has a lot of missed opportunities. Having said that, I think it's one of the most memorable episodes, visually, certainly. Yeah. I still like it a lot. I just don't think story-wise it's handled nearly as sophisticatedly as it could be.
Yeah, it's not in my top 10, but it's enjoyable. I mean, I hesitate to use the word, but in some circles you could call it a bit overrated, because if you're going in for some giant, deep, Two-Face level storytelling, you're not going to get it. But if you're just trying to watch a fun cartoon that is a little bit more than a standard fare that you get right now on TV, then yeah, why not? It's really good for that.
Yeah, it's got an edge to it. Something we didn't talk about is the idea that Batman might be more ruthless and cold in this because of his personal stakes,
Yeah, I guess we
and
would
that
talk
he
about
could
that
be.
more if it was more directly talked about. Like if Alfred ever questioned what he was doing.
You're right, because yeah, that's a really good point, because we don't question the morality of it. We're not saying, oh, you're too close to this Batman. You might cross a line if you don't hold back. Yeah, that's a good point. So it might just be that's Marv Wolfman's Batman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you could have seen, more episodes have Batman act like that. And of course, there are other episodes where he does stuff like that. But like, if that was just consistently what he did, it wouldn't be all that surprising.
Yeah, no, you're right. I feel like if you did this episode with the Dick Grayson Robin, and had Robin to try to step in like he always does every now and then, when Batman's too emotionally attached, it could have worked a little bit better there.
Well, and we could have had a parallel between the relationships of Batman and his sidekick and Clayface and his sidekick.
Yeah, you're right. You could have done this episode a million different ways and made it just a little bit better.
Yeah, but emphasis on a little bit. It's still pretty solid, I
Yeah,
think.
it's not bad.
Well, anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. We'll see you again next week for Bat Chat. What are we watching next time, Steve?
Joker's Favor, though.
Joker's Favor.
Yeah, the one with the guy who gets road rage with the Joker.
I love that one.
It's really funny.
Hilarious. Yep, I really enjoy that one.
The ending is priceless.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And oh, that's the guy who hates meatloaf.
Yes, I think it is.
Oh, can't wait for that. Okay, that's gonna be fun. So Joker's Favor next week. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. We sure appreciate it. See us Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central for Primetime Crisis Live, and we talk about all the brand new comic book and superhero TV shows that came out in the previous week. And in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Baxi.
And we'll see you again next week.